Apart from looking at the latest on the situation down in KZN from the flooding, criminal justice is also a big focus. What is happening with the system? I'll give you an example, a well-known one. Almost 8 years since soccer star Senzo Meyiwa was gunned down in a house in Vosloorus. But the murder case is far from solved. Some might even say it's barely gotten going. Now, the sad part about all of this, Silindelo Masikane joining us to talk about this, is when we then go back to 2019, the father, Senzo Meyiwa, dying without knowing what actually happened to his son. And that's the tragedy of the state of our justice system in this country. We always get caught up in the numbers, don't we? But there's families who are devastated, who want justice simply to be served.
Certainly so, Gareth. We all know the saying that goes, justice delayed is justice denied. And the Meyiwa family is just one example of many families in South Africa that are seemingly let down by the the justice system, that it just takes too long to get these cases to court. But we know that there are a number of factors that contribute to the delays that we see in many of the trials getting underway, starting from the investigations phase, policing, where we know that the police department is quite under-resourced, understaffed. There's been a mass exodus over the years, and also issues around the leadership at the top in terms of what happens then on the ground. But for more analysis on this, I am joined by one of the experts from the UJ Law Clinic, Mr. Alton Hart. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Maybe just take us through what are some of the issues that delay the start of many trials and, of course, closure for many families when it comes to the judicial system.
Now, obviously, if one looks at it, and it's normally like you get the investigation, and obviously when the investigation team, which is the SAPS team, the prosecuting team, is not working hand in hand, you'll have these delays because the prosecutor might need certain evidence to be presented in court, and if the investigating team is not bringing the evidence, then that can also play a role in how the actual trial or case pans out, and that can be one of the spanners in the works. But also sometimes you get police officers that are corrupt, that does it on purpose not to investigate certain aspects. That can also be a delay. You can get a prosecutor that's corrupt, that will not write an entry to an investigator to say, I need this evidence actually to have a successful prosecution. And then you have the accused on the other side using the law and exploiting the law to actually protract, and that has been seen as our former president. He's bringing application after application. It's well within his rights, but you can see it's protracting litigation and the actual trial process of taking place. So that is just one of the a couple of the things that can happen, but there's so many other things that play in when you look at what delays a case. Also the workloads in courts, because you get in the district courts, in the regional courts specifically, where these things are playing out sometimes, is that you have maybe 5 or 6 trials on a trial roll. You cannot have 5 or 6 trials in one court on one specific day. So some will be postponed, and then witnesses is not available. So that also has a significant impact on the work of the prosecution team. And obviously there's other underlying factors, and also we've seen sepsis in a disarray over the last couple of years because of lack of leadership, so that people can be held accountable, especially when it comes to these high-profile media cases. And that's where the delays normally kick in.
Load shedding too, I understand.
Yes, load shedding also plays a role, because I mean, I've been involved in a couple of civil and criminal matters where we get to court, and then obviously the matter cannot proceed because the record cannot be transcribed and recorded, because we need it for future purposes when the matter maybe goes on appeal. So that also plays a role. So load shedding also has a big impact on these type of things, and there's so many other things that one can just put your finger on to say that they are actually delaying. And also the witnesses that is actually must actually come to testify. Now some of the witnesses die, some of them disappear mysteriously. These are all things that's happening. This is South Africa. Do we want to know it or not know it? That's what's happening, and that's actually what delaying. And we cannot just lay the blame maybe at the prosecution's door or the SAP's door, but also sometimes at the defense attorneys, because you also get attorneys that's unethical in how they behave in court. They don't play open cards with court. They delay matters maliciously, and they do frivolous litigation against the state just so that their client doesn't come and answer to a case.
Mr. Hart, can you maybe speak to us on the impact for victims in particular, like the Meyiwa family? 8 years, you're waiting for a trial to begin. Just how devastating is this?
No, obviously for a parent, the thing is, like what I always say, even if a person gets sent to jail, your child will never return. That's the saddest part for a parent. Now to every time relive that experience, to say, okay, in 6 months we're going to court and the matter will be finalized, just to come, one witness is led and then the matter is postponed for another year. So that wounds never get time to heal properly, so that the family can say, we have closure, we know what has happened to our child. And that is like that recurring wounds for families. And it's at some stage, families, people on the street, the men on the street, don't have faith in the justice system anymore, and saying that these perpetrators, they've killed my son or my daughter, and they're still walking and they're roaming the streets. And that's when people start saying, I'm not going to report cases, I'm not going to come to court to testify even. And witnesses just feel like it's a waste of their time, they can do better things with their time. And it's how it impacts families and the South African population. And now, to criminals, that's it creates the impression that we can just go willy-nilly and do crimes, because our cases will take 10, 11 years to be prosecuted or to get to a court's door, and eventually that witnesses will disappear. And that's the sad part for families.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hart. All right, that's where we can leave it for now. Gareth, as you can hear, a myriad of issues that impact just how justice works here in this country, and that there are a number of factors that are influencing this.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are really going to pay attention to that last comment from Mr. Hartsley. We did a focus on GBV about a week or so ago, and it's exactly what a lot of victims were saying, that they don't want to come forward because it just takes too long. They feel the criminals are going to get away with the crime, and I think that's the biggest issue, and that's why we have SLE out there for us. Little justice for Senzo Meyiwa so far, it seems, him and his family, of course, but that's just one court case we're focusing on. This is the same around the entire country. We're going to go back to our focus on justice delayed in our country a little bit later.